Welcome back to 808s and Fast Breaks. My name is Jason Amar, here with my good friend Andy Cordell.
Hello, friends.
Welcome in, my good friend. And this is going to be a fun episode here. I think long overdue. We've been having some technical difficulties, I think I mentioned in the last episode, with some exporting of the podcast. So it's kind of been a hit or miss, right, when we're getting our stuff out. But this one we're feeling better about it. I think Andy's got the problem nailed down, and we're working through it. But this is going to be a great show, and hopefully we'll get it up right away here. Just to give you guys a rundown what we're going to be talking about here. Of course, we're going to kind of do a temperature check here on where we're at in the NBA Finals. Of course, we're tied after 2 games. Celtics took game 1, and the Warriors came back and won game 2 pretty handedly. So want to go through and get our takes, reactions, kind of dive into some of the X's and O's that we're noticing a little bit as we've watched. Do a little bit of fast break points. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on around the association. But before we do any of that, there's kind of been a lot of talk in the ether about, should the NBA shorten the season? Will that have any impact on superstar players playing more of the games? The whole load management, resting guys situation. Richard Jefferson had a pretty polarizing take a couple days ago, and CJ McCollum, and I think his first day in the ESPN studio as an employee, kind of came back and in favor of shortening the season where Richard wasn't. So I know me and Andy just watched both of those clips. And let's just kind of jump into it. I think we kind of are on opposite sides of the fence, so this could end up being a fun little debate here. We'll see if we end up agreeing here at the end, but I'll turn it right over to you, my friend. Should the NBA shorten their season from 82 games?
I think they should shorten the season, but nothing extremely dramatic. Adam Silver kind of stated earlier in the press conference when he was getting asked questions, and he's like, well, as a league, we're trying to protect our players as much as, we can, because the NBA and just pro athletes in general, it's like the wear on your body can really affect you later on in your career and then post career too. And it's really nice to see that, obviously, that the Players Association as well as the commission is trying to get on the same page. He made a statement that, last year with the whole COVID thing, right, that they essentially did play 10 less games, right, last season, and the injury risk did not change at all. It was the same rate. And I think, kind of looking at it as a whole, I still think we should shorten the season maybe by 10 games, and then we'll kind of see where it goes from there. You know what I mean? Nothing like drastic or crazy, because like they were suggesting like 60 games. I was like, dude, that's 22 games a year gone. Like breaking.
I agree.
I
think for the sake of this discussion, let's assume that they're gonna, if they were to shorten it, it would be to like 70 to 75 games.
See, that I feel much more comfortable in that range.
Because I think it's also unrealistic to expect them to just shorten it to 60 games because of the drastic impact that would have on the TV revenue and the sort of deals that they can negotiate there, just because they have less products, but just for the sake of debating, I am on the other side of the fence there. I don't think they should shorten the NBA season. And I think a lot of that, like, for me, comes down to like the sanctity of like records,
Right. That was a huge argument that Richard brought up.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of relate to a lot of it. That's always kind of been my feeling towards it. And you're kind of seeing how that is going on in the NFL, right? They just added a 17th game, and now you're going to see all of these like records be broken, single season records, just, and it's to be expected now which I think is kind of lame. Um, and obviously, over the course of decades, you just get used to that. I think the NFL actually used to be 14 games too, back in like the 70s or 80s. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it was. So obviously they've had change. I believe the NBA has always been somewhere around 80. As long as they've had this many teams, it's been 82 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think if you shorten it, you're gonna have to go by like points per game for the sake of a lot of discussions going forward. Like when you argue like no one's ever going to catch like LeBron or Kareem in terms of career scoring for any guys coming in if they're playing 10 less games every season,
Right.
And I just think that kind of sucks. I think that kills some of like the legacy stuff for guys coming in. And obviously, again, I'm saying you get used to it. I think that's the biggest impact for me. But then also like what Adam Silver was saying, right? Like if there is no change like in the injury rate, then what's the point? Like because everything here you have to remind yourself is driven by money, right? Like if they're gonna shorten the season, they're actively, I don't know how much money they make per game, but I mean I'll look up the TV deal here. I think it's like over $10 billion over the
Course of
course
a
of
season.
over the course of so many seasons.
I was
NBA
like,
TV deal. Let's see. Over $8 billion annually is what they're seeking in the next one. So let's just assume it's somewhere around like five right now. Like $5 billion. Just for the sake of doing this, let's do it, What's $5 billion divided by 82? They make $60 million per game, right? And obviously, like, there's 30 times 82, right? That's like
right.
not an accurate thing, but like for average, one game they make 60 million fucking dollars. So for every single one of those games that they're saying they're not going to have, they are actively saying to themselves, it is worth it to us to say we don't need this $60 million over seven times, or was that $430 million? We don't need this $500 million just because we think our quality of our product might get a little better. Now, I love to believe in human beings, but corporations don't do that.
I agree.
So I just don't believe it will happen as much as I don't really like want it to happen. But I want your kind of opinion on this because I've kind of been talking for a minute. But do you think like even if they shorten the season, superstar players like Kawhi Leonard, for example, if it's 72 games, like he's still going to rest a quarter of the games, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, do you think it's
Yeah.
like injuries aside, like, and we were just mentioning how Dame and CJ mentioned in that clip, they would look at the calendar with management and pick their rest days, right? Why would that not happen? That same action, I'm sure other teams do that too. Sit down with their star players, their multi-million-dollar assets, and decide how to protect them. They're still going to do that if it's less games, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. Like that's where I was kind of like a little bit more open to listening to Richard as well, like just listening to all parties and how they feel. If the rate doesn't change, then essentially you're just breaking the code of the game. You're breaking the fundamentals of the game, right? The season, how everything's supposed to go. If it doesn't have like an exponential rate of saving players from injury, it's definitely not worth it. Now, my only thing would be, well, there's 10 less games in the regular season. There's 10 less games that teams can make mistakes, right? Like to learn throughout a course of a
It's less
season.
like 10 games of data lost, right?
Right. And
For their coaching staffs.
I guess maybe this is just my mind rolling a little bit, but it's like, well, like for example, Kawhi, right, on the Clippers. Let's say next season for whatever reason it's like 72 games. We got 10 games out. Like there might be a period of the season, probably much more towards the end of the season, where things might be tight and there will be like these mandatory rest days, right? And it's like but no, I need to secure the 3rd seed. And we have like 2 teams right now that are tied for the 3rd seed. And we have less games to prove our record throughout the time. Maybe they'll push superstars to play more, and it'll be kind of like a forcing of the hand instead of organizations being able to protect their assets, because ultimately, as much as we want to protect our assets, the goal is to win a chip.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting angle. I didn't really think about that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
Just from a competitive standpoint, you know?
Yeah. No, I kind of like that. I think that's a good argument
Mm-hmm.
for shortening it. I think like one other thing that was just like while we're kind of just like floating out ideas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
One other thing that I think would make it worth it if they were to do it is if somehow, like, say it's 70, so like 72 games, right? So 10 less. I'm not gonna like break down how many times I'd play each division, right? Each division
It's kind
rival
of
and
weird.
whatnot. We don't
Yeah.
need to do that, but I like, and this is gonna be tough for schedule makers, but wouldn't it be cool like if the NBA were to like own days of the week like the NFL?
Oh,
And
like
like,
Sunday,
yeah, like obviously
oh,
like
for
the NFL is
football, like
always gonna have Sunday, but like if they were able to say we're gonna have less games, but like we're gonna have more games like just on Friday or like just on whatever day, you know, um, that would be cool. I think like and worthwhile because that would be able to drum up more interest and like if you could make the schedule like how the NFL does, where it's 10 a like we're on the West Coast, right? So like 10 a.m. games, 1 p.m. games, um, and then one primetime game in the evening. Like,
mm-hmm.
and you can have your TNT squad do the primetime game or the whatever, ESPN group
Yeah.
do that primetime
Yeah.
game. That'd be pretty cool.
Definitely. Definitely to own a day. It's like, bro, it's like, Sunday night football, it's like, I don't know, Thursday night basketball. Like
Yeah, why not?
it would be really cool for the NBA, because like that's the thing, right? There's 30 damn teams. They all got to play 82 games, and it's like
It's a lot, dude.
it's a lot. And unfortunately, it's like trying to like put a day, like scheduling wise. Yeah, whoever's scheduling next season, good luck for that. They need a pay raise if they can make that work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that like the sake of that argument makes more sense like to go down to like 60 games. It would like
Mm-hmm.
that would be more drastic. And then you bring in like the whole soccer element to it, right? Where they want to do like an FA Cup style, in-season tournament.
Which I'm a
Um
little confused about, like, because like things are all weird with this in-season tournament. Like, just for the listeners as well as me, just to get reinformed, can you kind of explain the suggestion of what the in-season tournament is supposed to do and its purpose?
yeah, like comparing it to English soccer.
Yeah, I mean, or just in general, because I'm just kind of curious. Like, every time I hear about this in-season tournament, it's kind of like they don't really go into extreme detail about it because it's still kind of like a thought idea. But I want to kind of understand like the purpose of why they think this would be beneficial for the league.
Yeah, okay. So let's see. I just pulled it back up from when they originally put this out in 2019. But I'll just read this. NBA sent a proposal to teams calling for a 78 game regular season. So it's not significant, right? Just cutting the season by 4 games, along with an in season tournament for all teams. Um, so those last 4 games of the regular season would technically be like the in season tournament. And then um, after those games, I don't know if it'd be like one and done, double elimination. I don't know how they do that. But the idea would be here. I'll read this. The proposal calls for teams to play 8 divisional games in the group stage of the event. So you like do groups, kind of like the World Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by division, and you play 8 games. So 2 times 4, 2 games each time. And then you'll get the 6 winners and then 2 wild card seeds, and they would qualify for the quarterfinals. And then there'd so those teams would have like a couple extra games, right? And it seems like there would be like a break right before Christmas is kind of the idea, to do those games. So that was like the original proposal, and
Okay.
it's kind of, I think it's cool. I love the idea of them. I don't know that format, right? That's a little confusing, but I love the idea of like a FA Cup style thing, like, which in England is just like they have every single division, whether that's the Premier League, right, top flight English soccer, all the way down to like the lower divisions, which could be similar to like, like a men's league, just like a weekend league.
Right.
And those lower divisions play, and like in lower tournaments to play up against the higher league teams. The higher league teams get buys all the way through. I don't think the Premier League teams play until like round 4, but you could, like, in theory, have like a weekend league in England playing against Manchester United or Chelsea.
Ah.
So, like that I don't know if that's like what the NBA would do, like, but like in theory, right, you could have like, if they really wanted to incorporate the G League, have like a
I,
minor league, and they're the lower second division of American basketball, and then you just kind of go from there. It's kind of a cool idea. Like, then you get into all like the should we do relegation stuff.
mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting.
That could be interesting because I remember, I forgot when we talked about this, but wasn't it? I think it was for soccer where it was like based on the division you're in, you could fall in and out of the major leagues.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that
So
could
that's like
be
what happens in all of soccer, actually,
all of
in
soccer,
Europe.
right? That you told
So
me
like in
about?
England,
Yeah.
for example, um, if you finish, there's 20 teams in the Premier League, and if you finish 18th, 19th, or 20th, you drop down into the next second division of professional football, which is called the Championship League, ironically enough.
Mm.
So if you lose, you go to the Championship. Um, but then the teams in the Championship League, the second division, the finish 1, 2, 3, they get promoted and take the place of those teams in the Premier League.
Ah, I see. I see.
So there's
So
always like this revolt. So there's it's not that there's 20
revolving.
teams in the Premier League. It's that there's 20 slots in the Premier League.
Dude, the NBA should really think about something
Dude,
like
see,
that.
it's so when you put it like that, it's like it's kind of fucking dope.
Dude, like could you imagine? It's just like, damn, like Houston had a really bum year. I don't know if they're making it back to Division 1 for like 5 years.
Yeah, like
Like
maybe the Rockets are gonna be stuck in the G League for a couple years.
that would be insanely
Yeah,
awesome.
like, and then you get into this whole thing where, like, in soccer too, you have the transfer market, right? And there's no salary cap or anything.
Mhm.
So it's like, if you're in the Premier League, I think you make like it might be like hundreds of millions of dollars more just because of the TV revenue, right?
Right.
And that would be similar to the NBA. Like, the G League's not going to get the same coverage. So if you drop, like, you may have to, like, teams in England will, like, if you drop down, you have to like sell off some of your players because you won't be able to pay all the wages,
Right.
So it's kind of crazy.
That could add such a competitive and intriguing element to the NBA.
Right, like, so using the Rockets, like, imagine the Rocket, like, in a couple years they just kind of middling, right, and then a couple years they drop, and they're like, damn, we can't hold on to Jalen Green, we got to sell Jalen Green.
Oh my goodness.
Or
Talk
something
about
crazy,
talk
I don't
about
know.
leverages too for being like in the highest division. Well, it's not my problem. You can't afford your best player, right? I'm not going to send you a great offer for you. There is no benefit of me doing that. So it's just like, that would really be a terrible position to be in, dropping divisions, obviously.
Yeah. And
But
the other interesting part about that too is, like, I can understand like why people would be like, oh, that sounds like really bad, like, for the players, like, if they can just kind of be like moving around, like, kind of like their contracts are just bought and sold, right, by different teams. in a free market, but it's like it's actually really good. Like because in European soccer, players actually won't you wouldn't agree to go to that team because you negotiate along with the team that you're going to, right? So in theory, you couldn't really be transferred to a team you didn't already want to go to. So like it's actually better. Like, trades happen for players in the NBA and they don't even know they got traded and they see it on Twitter. Like
Right.
that doesn't happen. All that stuff wouldn't happen anymore. Everyone so it's a kind of like a player is like more involved in their own contract and destiny in that way.
Right. Especially if you could just sell them, like these contracts like that. That's just like completely different. That is so player empowering.
And think about this now too. This is the whole thing. If you have a 5-year contract, that transfer fee would be worth more than the same player on a 1-year. In the same way that a trade for, say, Damian Lillard or James Harden, right? If they're only on the 1-year deal, you're not getting as much.
Right.
In the trade. It's just like it's the same principle.
Yeah, dude, seriously. That is shout out to soccer.
Or they could run out their contract and leave on a free transfer. That happens now more too. They just run down their contract and they're just a free agent. They can go anywhere they want.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, definitely some things that I think the NBA should take a look at. Definitely for soccer. I mean, that's just some cool ideas out there.
Yeah. So I didn't even expect to kind of compare it to soccer and stuff that much, but it's kind of a cool way of thinking about it. Like obviously it'd be a big adjustment for I think American sports fans,
Oh yeah.
It's a whole new way of kind of doing it. There's no they don't do playoffs either. It's just kind of completely different. You just win the league. But let's kind of move on here. Let's talk about the finals a little bit. Like I was saying, we're 2 games in. Boston took the first game. Warriors take the second game. Now the series shifts to Boston for games 3 and 4.
Yep.
What were kind of like your key takeaways from game 1 and game 2, whether that's specific players, schemes that stood out to you, moments that stood out to you? Just kind of take it away.
I just want to say the biggest takeaway from all of this is basically Draymond Green is the perfect instigator. Like it all started at the press conference, right? Afterwards. And like we know, it's like, yeah, we're going to see each other like up to 7 times in a series where we're trying to like cut each other's heads off. Of course, I'm going to watch what you're going to say for your post game. Draymond's like, yeah, just like, I'm not worried. Clay, nah, I'm not worried. It's like they're getting under the skin, right? Like, and what was so beautiful is Boston came out like roaring, like young, like a young lion. You know what I mean? They just come in. Everybody plays great. Well, players play great. And Golden State with Draymond Green kind of like leading the emotional charge kind of puts them back into reality of what they're actually having to face now. Right? Jordan Poole had a great game. If I remember,
Curry's been unbelievable.
Yeah, Curry was amazing. I know Clay did not have the best game, but he played pretty good defense and just kept in it. And like,
so I kind of have a few things that like stood out to me that I want to get your thoughts on, right? And the first one you took already, which was going to be, what are your thoughts on how Draymond's impacting the game?
Huge.
And I think you could argue in game 1, he kind of let a little bit of that kid in his own head, right? Mm-hmm. He was 2 of 12. He was like kind of pressing a little bit earlier in the shot clock too, which was kind of odd for him. Right. Usually you see him be a little bit more passive shooting the ball, which is his game, and he was a lot better in game 2. One thing, like, just because we're kind of talking more about Golden State, you saw in game 1, Jason Tatum's playmaking and distribution able to help a lot, even though he wasn't able to score the ball. He was like 3 of 17 from the field or something in game 1, shot the lights out in game 2. But I guess which Jason Tatum do you think is going to help the Celtics have more success? Obviously, he's not going to shoot 3 of 17, nor would you want him to, even though you won. But what do you think? Do you think he needs to be more of a playmaker, or do you think he needs to assert himself and say, I'm getting 35 tonight?
Most cases, I would say the playmaking, but not here. This is everything on the line. This is his team. I don't care. Like, I would rather live with Tatum going like 0 of 20, but like being the guy, because that's his team, versus like maybe goes like 5 for 11 and he's got like 12 assists. At this point, everybody kind of knows what everybody's role is. Tatum can give the ball to Marcus too.
Yeah,
And
that's what
really
I was
let
going
him
to
run
say.
the point.
And I was going to say, I kind of agree with you in that he needs to be a scorer, but I also think he's proven throughout these playoffs in the last year or so, he's obviously first team All NBA this year, that he's a superstar enough player that he's able to decide throughout the game in moments which one he needs to be.
Yes, I agree.
But I do agree with you. I think he needs to go out and say, I'm looking for my own to start.
Dude,
and let Marcus Smart.
Marcus
Smart has not looked great, dude.
No.
Yes, he's like
tired.
making plays on the defensive end. He's always going to, because he's just that kind of player. He works so hard, right? But he has not looked great offensively. He looks a little out of sync. The shot hasn't been there consistently. Even though I think he shot well from 3 in game 1, but it's like just the touch doesn't look there. The ball handling, that's something else I want to ask about. But like, what do you think? Like, what version of Marcus Smart do you think? It's like maybe he's still injured, lingering from
I think he's
that
injured.
stuff.
I think he's 100% injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Robert Williams too. By the way, I think he's hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it because like with Marcus, it's like he's never going to be like an extremely offensive weapon on the floor, right? Like you kind of ask like, oh, if you break it down to the bones, what is Marcus really there to do? Play make and guard your best like guard, right? And so the thing is with Golden State, their defense is just as good sometimes as Boston, right? So it's like shot creation. You can't really get that from your team when you're playing Golden State. And obviously Tatum stepped up in game 1 to kind of do a lot of the facilitating. But with Marcus, like he's too injured, in my opinion, to keep up anymore in these matchups.
Well, that's why I think like the lineups with him and Derek White have been so successful too. Like I think I heard Bill Simmons kind of talking about it, and I noticed it when I was watching the game. Like Grant Williams didn't get as many minutes and didn't seem as effective when he was out there. I think part of that is because Draymond was in his head. But also because Derek White has kind of been their 5th guy this series. He's clearly their 5th best player.
So good.
Maybe even 4th because Robert Williams hasn't looked himself, So, like they're 5. You get Smart, Derek White, Brown, Tatum, and probably Horford, honestly.
It has to be Horford.
Horford, right?
It has to be Horford.
Like those are their 5 best guys this series. White is kind of making up for some of the stuff that's like his Smart deficiencies offensively. And Smart seems like he'll play through anything, right? Especially in the defensive end. So like kudos to him. But the other part that I wanted to ask you about is like how do you think Boston is going to shore up the turnovers, right? Especially in game 2, that was a huge issue for them. And it feels like a lot of it was unforced. Like obviously Golden State has great defense. A lot of that was active hands. A lot of that was reading passing lanes. But honestly, like I'll pull up the stats, but I think like a good chunk of it felt like unforced, bad passes, not being in sync with your teammates, right? So I don't know, man. Like, what do you think? How do you think that they fix that going forward? Is how I want to talk about it, because we know what the issue is.
Right.
I'm looking at it right now, by the way.
It's
Game
bad.
2, Marcus Smart had 5 turnovers.
5.
Jason Tatum had 4. Jaylen Brown had 2. Derek White had 3.
Al
Al
Horford
Horford
had
had
2.
2.
Yeah.
They had 18 as a team.
Yeah. I know.
Golden State's 12.
I know. This is where it's just like, personally for me, personnel wise, I just don't think it's possible for anyone to like get stickier hands. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like,
but you can game plan for it.
oh yeah, no, for sure. But I'm saying like, when you look at Boston, I see really good shot creators, right? Jalen, Jason. I see great defenders, but if I'm being like completely honest, even if Tatum has taken up a huge playmaking responsibility, naturally, I don't think that's his role, and he's 100% comfortable.
Well, that's
in
what
that.
Marcus Smart's been their point guard all year.
And this is where I'm going to say this. I hate to say this. Boston needs to just be much more conscious and aware of where the passes are going. And I think playing in the half court is going to kind of be, in my opinion, I think it might be the death of them if they fight through the half court the whole time. You know what I mean? Because like,
it's tough, dude. That's tough because if you get sped up, you're playing into the Warriors' hands.
Exactly, you know? and it's just like, it's just rough because like in the half court offense, sometimes you look at Boston and you're like, run something, right? Like,
oh,
people
dude, their offense gets so ISO heavy sometimes.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, come on, like, dude, like that's where the unforced turnovers come to, right? Is like those ISO situations where you can't get a shot up, and then it's the bailout passes where players aren't necessarily ready. But I don't even blame them for that, because once you kind of see Jalen go into an ISO, once you see Tatum go into an ISO, you're kind of assuming they're taking the shot. You know what I mean? So when they bail out, there's that like quick, like, oh shit, like it's not even like they're like completely like chucking a ball and missing it. It's like by inches that they're missing this, you know?
Yeah,
so
fingertips.
It's just like,
a lot of fingertips on basketball.
yeah,
the last game.
So it's just like being more consciously aware of just like, you know how Golden State's going to play you. And if you're going to run ISOs, make sure that you've at least created enough space to where if you do throw a pass, the player that's going to get the ball can receive it and try to do something. Because it's always these bailout passes last second that just kind of throw these turnovers like upside down for Boston.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like it's got to be a frustrating loss for Boston too, because you look at some of the stats throughout the game, like both teams shot well from 3. They both made 15 threes. They were pretty even on the rebounding battle, and like today it's basketball, like that's kind of how games are won, right? Like if you win, I didn't look at transition too. I bet you that's where there. One sec. Let's do a little test. In today's basketball, I think the 3 most important statistics to team statistics, 3-pointers made, rebounds, right, and fast break points. So it was pretty even for the first 2. I'd be willing to bet money that the fast break points. Oh, it's close. It's close.
It's close.
It is. It's turnover. It's the points off turnovers, which I would feel like most of the time would be a fast break point, but I guess it wasn't in this case.
Right.
But yeah, 33 points off turnovers for Boston to the Golden State's 15. So it's just like they're getting way more points off the turnovers.
Yeah.
And if everything else is staying even, that's where the game has to be won. So that's why I think it's got to be maddening for Boston, right? I think a big part of that, as good as he's been, I don't know if you can look at like Jaylen Brown as number 1 bring the ball up guy sometimes.
Oh, dude. Hey, I have a hot take, dude.
I don't know. What's your hot take?
Jaylen Brown should never bring the ball up the court.
It makes me nervous when he does,
dude. Dude, I love Jaylen Brown, bro. He is so good at basketball. He cannot, albeit we've said this on multiple podcasts previously, Jaylen Brown has gotten a lot better with his handle over the years.
He's clearly got to work on it more this offseason.
He is still not there. every time I see him dribble, it's so weird, right? Like fundamental basketball, it's like you dribble kind of low, you're leaning a little bit, right? You want to keep the ball slightly more in your like center of gravity, right? You know, with Jalen, it's like sometimes he'll like shoot it out like he's Tony Parker, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like kind of lax. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yo, this is where things happen. I mean, GP2 coming back, having like a crazy defensive
yeah.
impact. You have
He's gonna bother him.
these quick twitch defenders. Like, I'm sorry, Jalen, you're just not there yet, handle wise. So I would rather just have Marcus or Tatum. Fuck it, I'd rather have Horford bring up the ball.
Fair.
Like, and that's just my
Derek
little hot
White.
take. Yeah, I mean,
Derek
seriously,
White.
like Jalen is like truly, he should be an off-ball weapon and then an ISO
But, I
weapon.
mean,
If
and
they need it.
it's not like he can't be effective in that role. I think too, because he's been so great coming off pin downs. He's been so great in some ISO actions when you get him on the elbow and in the mid post, right? Like he's been a shot maker already.
Yeah,
These last couple
great.
of series. So, and in this one. But yeah, let's like look forward a little bit now. I think we've like diagnosed some of the issues. It's been like, as much as we've been kind of like shitting on Boston, it's been pretty even.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Boston won the first one, ran away in the fourth quarter. Golden State ran away late in the third quarter with this one. You know, it's kind of like similar wins for both teams. But looking ahead, series going to Boston. Script game 3 and game 4 for me. Who wins the next couple? Because I think we'll probably record our next podcast like after game 4. You know, when the series is traveling again. So what do you think? You think it's another split? We go back to 2. Like, give me the order how you think it kind of flows these next couple.
Okay.
And then we can come back and see how wrong we are, because we never are good at this shit.
No, I'm just gonna go what's literally on my mind right now.
Yeah,
Golden
as you
State.
should.
Golden State is probably gonna win by like 8 to 10 is how I feel. Okay, Draymond's gonna have a triple double, and Clay's gonna have an amazing shooting night. That's how I feel.
Real bounce back in game 3, because he was shitty game 2.
Dude, usually when Clay has like a really bad game, there's something that just ticks him off. You know what I mean? Of course, he's like one of the greatest shooters to ever live. Like, if he shoots that bad from the field, like he's always been a good bounce back guy. So I think Clay's going to take the helm. I also do think Jordan Poole will probably have more of an impact as well. I think like this series, he's probably one of the only players that, ironically, I don't really hear too much like in NBA media being talked about right now, because in game 1 he was like not really there. Game 2 he had like this crazy highlight moment, you know, like half court shot basically. That was crazy. And he had a bounce back game, but I think it's going to really decide on how Poole plays off the bench. It's kind of like how we felt with Miami. If Miami had Tyler Hero, right? If the series could have gone slightly differently with Boston, but it's kind of the same idea with Golden State now, because, you know, Derek White, like playing out of his mind, like Jordan Poole needs to step up and be able to do that too and match that energy. So that's kind of how I see game 3 is Jordan Poole has a better game, Clay has the best game of the night, and Draymond probably gets like a triple double.
Okay. And more of the same from Curry, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I think they're probably going to lock down. They're going to try to. They're probably going to try to lock him down. I think Steph's gravity is going to show a lot in game 3. That's why. That's personally
fair
why.
Prediction.
That's why, because like he wasn't. He had a really good game 1, and then they shut him out with gravity, and Golden State couldn't capitalize on Steph's gravity. It just happens every once in a while, you know? But I think game 3, they're going to have that same plan where it's like, okay, we got to get the ball out of Curry's hands. And I just think Golden State will be able to capitalize this time. They've seen enough, you know?
Yeah. Okay. And game 4?
Game 4?
In your world here, Golden State's going into game 4 in Boston up 2-1.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I think
feeling confident.
I think Boston takes game 4. I can't give you any specifics though, because like I
That's
truly
fair. You can't look into the crystal ball that far. That's tough.
No. But that's how I feel for Game 3. I think Boston makes it Game 4, and then after that, I think Golden State wins 2 in a row and it's over.
Here's my prediction. I didn't expect you to go all the way. Okay.
Well, I mean, because I do have Golden State in 6.
Fuck you, man. Fuck you. I'm gonna give my whole thing now too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Boston wins Game 3 in a very close one.
Okay.
And by very close, I think there will be fouling at the end. That's how I'll describe.
Like close. A free throw battle.
Not like they're gonna win by 1 point, but like maybe they win by 7 because the free throws at the end.
Okay, right around me. I'm 8 to 10.
Yeah.
So
okay. But I think Boston wins it.
Okay, that's the difference, right? Okay.
Yeah, Game 3. I think Tatum goes off in Game. I think Tatum is gonna go insane in Game 3.
Oh, dude, I would love that.
And then I think it's kind of like inverse of what you said. I think Golden State responds, kind of wins probably similarly to how they did in Game 2. Probably not as big of a third quarter. I don't think they outscore them by 21 points again. Right. But maybe like outscore them by 10 in the third quarter, go into the fourth quarter up, 10, 12 points, feeling good, win by 10 at the end. Kind of like hold that lead.
Okay.
Whatever run Boston has. And we'll go into Game 5 tied 2-2 in Golden State. And then from there, I think Golden State will win Game 5. And then Boston
takes 2.
Will close 6 and 7.
Okay.
The funner... Actually, you know what? No, sorry. That's wrong.
Oh, that's wrong?
There's no way Boston wins Game 7 in Golden State. So I take that back. I think Boston has to win Game 5. And then they're going to win 6 in Boston. So I think they'll win Game 3, they'll lose Game 4, and then they'll go on a 2 in a row. So they'll win 3 or 4 games here. Because I don't think that they would win 3 in a row, right? If they lose Game 3, like you predict, Golden State wins Game 3, I think it's a wrap for Boston, honestly.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Because then it probably has to go 7, and then it's done. If they could, I just believe more in Golden State if it's going to 7. If it doesn't go to 7, Celtics are going to win this series.
Ooh, okay. I like it because I do have Golden State in 6, so we'll definitely be able to hold each other accountable and kind of see what ends up happening for Game 3.
I don't even have any skin in this, though. I'm not going to lie. I didn't put any money down. We didn't make a bet on, like a little friendly bet on this or anything.
No, we didn't. I
mean, we can. It's tied. Like, it's still a fair time to do it.
I mean, I'll always stick with my pick, Golden State in 6.
All right. Well, we don't have to do in the number of games, but
okay,
you
want to do
fair. You want to do another friendly $10 wager like we did for Mavericks Golden State?
Of course.
Right. You already taken $10 from me, so maybe I'll just get it back.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, we'll see. I mean, I hope we can project that reality, this reality that we live in, that Boston wins this chip, because it'd be so dope.
It'd just be sick for the future of the league, right?
Absolutely, because it's the stamp of the new face. It's the new generation finally like becoming adults, and that's where it's oh wow, like legacy defining, as you had said before in the previous podcast.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, consider it a virtual handshake, $10 bet. I got Celtics. So you got
get me
Warriors.
Some money. I'm gonna get me some money.
And I think that kind of does it for the finals review here. And predictions. So we went way further ahead than I thought we would. So we'll hit it again. Another temperature check kind of after Game 4. We'll see how we're doing. If it looks like we're gonna go long in the series, because if either of these teams wins both these games,
it's over.
I mean, yeah, it's done.
It's done.
I mean, I don't know. Golden State is the only team to have blown a 3-1, so we'll see.
I know. I mean. It was LeBron. It's fucking LeBron. God damn.
It's Jason Tatum.
I know, bro. Because like seriously, if he does though, like really think about it. Like LeBron's kind of only like been the true challenge for Golden State. Like throughout, they're like they're like nemesises in a sense. Like I mean, they don't hate each other, but like truly, like that's the guy. It's the guy Golden State was built for to beat. And then now it's like, well, is Tatum on that level? Is he ready? You know, because that will be a fight for the ages.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, man. Let's hit a few fast break points and then get out of here. Sound good?
Yeah.
So let's kind of approach this as like, does this matter?
I like
Is that
it.
fair?
I like it.
So first off, there are some rumors that may have some substance to them that Phil Knight put in an offer to buy the Portland Trailblazers along with someone who's like, I can't remember his name, but I believe the co-owner of the Dodgers or something like that. Maybe like Allen, but regardless, purportedly over $2 billion. Portland came out and said the team is not for sale, which I think is just them saying they want to get more money. But what do you think? Does this matter as a Portland Trailblazers fan to you?
I'm gonna go on a whim here and say it actually does. I think Phil Knight will have a huge impact on the Blazers, right? We got Nike headquarters here. It's like we got UO, like we got all of these Nike endorsed schools. He's always been super into like, you know, athletes and sports and just like
He's
everything.
always said he never wants to own a team though, so it's kind of interesting. He's 84.
Yeah, and so his age kind of worries me a little bit, right? Because you're kind of like, well, let's be realistic here. If I'm 84, I'm trying to bet like, you know, 3 or 5 years, right? Like I'm just being realistic.
Feels like a bucket list purchase. He's just like, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm just gonna buy the Blazers. But I think it's actually cool because of Nike headquarters here, right?
True.
I think that impact for the city too,
and the potential for under the table deals that go away from the salary cap are the potential is great here.
Yeah, like hey, maybe I can't
Nike
sign you on the books,
Jordan
but you want
whatever
you want a
want.
Nike endorsement. That's what I'm saying. It's like Phil can use that leverage, and that's like something that Portland has never had. We're a small market team. We do have plenty of like beautiful scenery. We have like Nike's headquarters. I mean, it's a cool city and everything, but it's a relatively small city. So to have something as powerful as someone like Phil Knight coming in and having the backing of Nike, like that could be a huge incentive for players to be like, well, like, you know, if like people like players like break out a little bit and they're like, okay, like, yeah, I'm looking for endorsement deals or like I'm trying to like change my branding or whatever. Nike being in the face of Portland is just, you know, icing on the cake.
For sure. Can't disagree with that. Let's move on to the next piece here. Does this matter? LeBron is officially a billionaire, according to Forbes.
I kind of felt like we already knew.
I'm kind of with you. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, he's fucking
also,
rich.
Who gives a shit? Yeah, he's fucking rich. $1 billion is no different than $500 million to me. It's just a fuckload of money at that point.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, but hey, congratulations to LeBron. Like, seriously.
Yeah, generational wealth. He seems like an amazing person. So
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Last one. Does this matter? I think this is kind of an easy one. Of course it matters. Quinn Snyder steps down as Jazz coach.
Huge.
He said in his statement that they have a need for a new voice in the locker room. And I thought that was like the little nugget that I kind of pulled out. So we've kind of done a little bit of coaching talk, I think, but you know, obviously Darvin Ham is on with the Lakers, and I was saying earlier, I think I'd already run through a brick wall for that man. I love him already after the press conference today. But anyone that comes to mind to you is for Jazz coach? The media shake of the head.
Dude, actually, but I think D'Antoni is in the running for the Hornets job right now.
Yes, he is. Yes.
And that's why I was going to say, like, I think with the personnel that Utah has, they want Gobert out, right? Or at least it seems that way, right? Because if you put a gun to the head to Utah, they're going to choose Donovan. And it's like, okay.
It seems like Mitchell and Gobert don't want to play together to the point of trading one, right?
Why not buy all into just 3-point shooting? I mean, they're already dude, Utah fucking shoots so many goddamn threes, dude. Fucking get D'Antoni in there. Like, why not?
True. You know? I mean, Gobert's and you're saying they'd chip out Gobert if they're doing that,
for
obviously.
Sure. Gobert would not be there if D'Antoni's there. Yeah. They'll go small as hell.
Mitchell's the new Harden. They play like the old Rockets.
Yep.
Could be good.
But that's my only coach that I could possibly think of, and that is a huge stretch because honestly, D'Antoni on the Hornets could be pretty damn fun too.
True.
So
I think it'd be cool if they get another young guy in there, like someone not many people have heard of. I'm blanking on his first name, but like that assistant coach, something Sweeney from Dallas. I think he's kind of like their defensive guy.
Yeah.
And obviously led a great defense. Utah's always kind of been a solid defensive team, but what's interesting is he was able to do that once they traded Porzingis and have that effectiveness, right? So along the similar vein to what you're saying, if they're looking at trading Gobert and they're going to have a much smaller lineup and they want to have more defense focus, and Donovan Mitchell clearly needs to be more engaged on that end because he showed the promise early in his career. I think he could be a good option, like someone that's not as well known but might be looking to jump into a head coaching career.
That's
like
cool. That's cool. I didn't even consider.
Someone like Kenny Atkinson could be cool because it's still a pretty young group. With Donovan Mitchell there, he was obviously great in building a culture in Brooklyn. With that group of guys, not Donovan Mitchell, D'Angelo Russell leading those guys. In his only All-Star year. I mean, I don't know. There's some good options still out there, right? As long as Mark Jackson is not coaching a basketball team this next year, I think we'll all be good.
Oh my god, dude! I don't even know what to say about Mark Jackson anymore.
He's just so funny. Fucking idiot, man.
It's so funny because like I've said this numerous times on the podcast, but I have a relatively young basketball mind, and that's why I'm so intrigued about the NBA now. Just because I started watching so late. But I remember when I first started, and I was just younger. It's like 2012, so I'm like 15. And just hearing Mark Jackson's voice and what he said, I was like, oh, like that's funny. Like, oh, like what does he say? Mama, there goes that man.
There goes that man.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of spicy.
See, this is why he still has a job for ESPN.
I know, because he's getting these younger kids into it a little bit. You know what I mean? He does add a little bit of like.
I'm not saying he's a horrible broadcaster. I don't think he's my favorite at all, but like he's a horrible fucking coach.
Yeah, and just I don't know if he'll ever get a job in the NBA again. I really think his window closed after Golden State. So, hey, it is what it is.
Also, dude, low key, him with Mark Jones on the call for the finals was fire. Just them two. No Van Gundy for game one was kind of fire.
Do you like Van Gundy?
Okay, here's what I'm learning.
I can't believe we're going. Hey guys, I just want to announce I can't believe we're here. Talking about Van Gundy and Mark Jackson.
How did we get here? But no, I always thought I hated Van Gundy and Jackson both as broadcasters. I just thought they sucked, but it is. I've learned. It's like just hate when they're together.
Yeah, I knew it.
They're like an old married couple, dude. They just get bickering and they talk about random bullshit and they get real curmudgeonly. And it's just like when they're not together, Van Gundy's super insightful. Like obviously he says a lot of like intelligent things, points out great actions that you wouldn't notice, right?
Right.
As like a casual fan, right? I think he'd help like break the game down more. But he doesn't do that as much because he's talking about like the color of someone's shirt or some bullshit, like something dumb like that.
And it's always because Mark instigates something. It's like
because they need to argue. They always need to argue and disagree. It's so dumb.
And it's like, nah,
that's got to be a block. Oh no, Mark, no, I can't believe you'd even say that. Just like
or like, oh, like. Is that a charge? I don't know. I don't know.
They do that a lot. They are a reason too. Like a lot of the fans have the sentiment around like a lot of the wishy-washiness with the calls is because even the guys talking about the game as you're watching it are like, fuck this, we don't know what this is,
Right.
like shitting on all of it. They like shit on the product themselves while you're watching it. It's not good.
Yeah,
Mark Jones is
really
amazing. Mike Breen is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they should get Richard Jefferson or JJ Redick to call a finals game.
I would love JJ Redick to call a finals game.
How cool would that be?
You know what? No, I take that back. I'd rather have RJ because I can see RJ having more of a voice line iconic moment.
Yeah, I think so too. He has more experience, a little more experience too.
Right. No, I agree. But like either one of those would be really cool to see someone commentate in the finals like that. Yeah.
True. All right. Well, I think that was kind of it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we do a random replay center question?
Yeah. I mean, why not? Dude?
I have one that's kind of in the vein of what we were talking about. That's at the bottom of my list here. That I just added.
My computer's she's hot, but she's living.
She's holding on.
Yeah, she's holding on.
A couple more minutes here.
Yeah. No problem.
All right. Well, I have a question for you then.
Okay.
And this is not just basketball. This is all of sports. No.
Okay.
Who is your favorite broadcaster in all of sports?
I always forget his name.
Eric Collins.
Eric Collins. And honestly, like, I really like Mike Breen too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Those two are like
that's a classic. I think most people would pick Mike Breen. Yeah,
because dude, his voice is just like, it still kills me that Allstate commercial. No, not the State Farm commercial, right? Where like the voice, it's just he's just a great guy. So
sounded a little nasally.
Yeah, so good. That's probably one of the only commercials that make me like smile every time I see it.
Yeah, dude. Just because Mike Breen's so wholesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Like your grandpa on screen.
Yeah.
Okay, I think my favorite broadcaster is Ian Eagle.
Ian Eagle?
Do you know him?
No.
Ian Eagle. He does the Brooklyn Nets broadcast, and he's on TNT.
I'm sure.
He's got some pretty iconic lines. He's the one who always goes, "Oh, that's a man's jam."
Oh, I love that voice line. That's a man's jam.
He has some really, really good lines. Like he is up there with Mark Jones for the lines. Mark Jones has the single best line, I think. He's deep in his bag, like the fries are at the bottom.
Okay, wait, real quick. If marijuana becomes legal across the board, I would hear me out.
Going with this?
Hear me out. I would love a channel that is separate where they do other commentary where people are inebriated.
Dude, we can do that on Twitch. People do that different broadcasts and, like, on Twitch, and they put the game on and they call it themselves. Yeah. And
I'm not gonna lie, I am so like invested in like people's commentary because like because we're romanticizing a game, commentary really matters. It really kind of dictates how you kind of objectively look at the game too, right? Because like for the most part, they're not supposed to be biased. They're just supposed to state what's kind of happening.
Yeah, dude. Should we try and call a game? Do you want to try and call a game?
I mean, we could. It'd be hard, but
We don't need to do it in the finals, but we could do maybe a preseason one or some shit.
Oh, I'm down. Practice. I'm down. Just practice. See if like we got
why not?
It.
Go live on Twitch or YouTube and see if we can't broadcast a game.
Oh my gosh, we could say some ridiculous thing. I'll do some research too. Like I'll take from the greats. I will learn.
Here, I have another question for you. Would you want to be the play-by-play guy or the like color commentary guy? Like, would you want to be the Mike Breen or the Van Gundy / Mark Jackson?
I'd rather be Van Gundy.
Okay, so you're gonna stick me in the play-by-play role.
I mean, I could. It's just like obviously that's just more of my natural role is just observing and just saying things. But play-by-play too. I mean, I could be down. Because play-by-play calls are the best calls.
Blocked by James.
So good.
Iconic, man.
So good. All right. So, future date.
Yeah, we'll add
Jason
that because
and I might
I was also going to say
commentate.
we need to have like a 808's company retreat here in the next month or so.
Oh, for sure.
And build after the finals are done. Maybe for the draft, we'll do it around the draft. We can do it like the whole weekend.
Right.
And then plan out what we got cooking for the next season. Because listeners, this is going to get leveled up. We're going to do some shit.
Yeah, and
when we have the time.
And also, with this coming towards the off season, I think Jason and I, when we both wanted to start this podcast, it was initially for our love of basketball, but we also wanted to use our platform to also just talk about other things too, which I think we're going to definitely sit down, bunker down, really think, because of course we love music, but there's plenty of things going on in the world right now too that I think also might need to be talked about as well, just like world news, just general things as well, just to keep everybody up to date too, because as much as we're a basketball podcast, we're not only a basketball podcast. Just wanted to put that out there.
808s and fast breaking the news.
Yup.
808s and fast breaks the news.
We already got things cooking, guys.
I think there's something there.
Alrighty.
But all right, dude. This was a fun one. Thanks everyone for listening. And cheers. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Andy, before we head out?
Nah, guys. Have a great day and have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Peace out.
Peace.